The source of the tremor was here on the surface near Poisson. After the shaking stopped, the water levels in the Poisson area rose at an alarming rate.
Malus and Silver, they won't ever come back here again.
Buying yourself a plot in advance, are you?
No need yet. But when I do, I hope you'll let me be buried beside Master Callus, demoiselle.
In that case, could I be buried on his other side?
One person might be saved at the expense of another, sure, but that isn't something we should ever consider a trade. Malus and Silver were not the price for saving anyone. They're heroes.
Seems you've become more eloquent in the time since we last met.
Thanks to the Knave, Spina di Rosula received generous support from the Fatui, which allowed us to complete the rescue and evacuation work so quickly.
During some recent investigations, a child claimed to have discovered some ruins near Poisson. The ruins date back to ancient times, and seem to be worth investigating in many ways.
Wait! There's something wrong with this bridge! Run for it!
Nadia!
You have helped so many people get through so many difficulties. You are one with us. We are inseparable. Therefore, this fair and honorable court shall declare you guilty, and you shall stay here. You will be together with us forever.
Demoiselle, don't admit guilt. This trial means to keep you here forever.
And you would call this justice? Preposterous. You are merely jealous that Demoiselle still has a chance to exist as an individual.
He says we're jealous. Jealous? How could she possibly be an independent individual?
What's with these people?
Silence!
What, can't bear to leave us behind or something?
Malus.
My apologies. I couldn't resist making one little joke once I realized that this shall be our last goodbye.
Malus. Silver.
Quickly, you must come now!
Goodbye, demoiselle.
Farewell.
You were just about to be dissolved within, but I think I saw two Oceanids protecting you. It was only for a moment, perhaps even a fraction of a second, but they gave me the chance to retrieve you.
So, Neverlet, you're probably quite the swimmer, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yes, of course.
There's a person kneeling here. She seems so dedicated. And there's a whole bunch of other people behind her doing the same. She's facing this... what is this? Some kind of island in the sky?
And is that Lady Farina in the third image? Did the Hydro Archon fall into the water?
And is that a ring of people around her? Are they all in the water?
The fourth image. I know this one. This exactly matches the content of the prophecy.
More information should be hidden in these slates, but I fear I cannot easily uncover it. Most likely due to us missing the first slate.
If we go by timing, Lady Farina only emerges in the third image. That means that the person in the second image might be the previous Hydro Archon.
Egeria, then. I had never met her, but her appearance here does match the records.
Did she herself commit that sin? And if not, why would she be in such a posture?
You're probably the best person to talk to her anyway.
I will be carefully considering my words tonight.
Like I said, I've already explained everything.
And yet the problem has not been properly solved. There is little space for excuses between us. My deciphering of the slates indicates that the Hydro Archon Egeria once had to confess to, or apologize for, a certain sin. If anyone would know about it, it should be you.
All gods don't have the same secrets, you know. She was herself and I'm me. Is it really so strange that I know nothing?
Forgive me for saying this now, Lady Farina, but I have long known of your various secret investigations into certain matters. This is not strange in itself, considering that you are the Hydro Archon. But it is strange that you should also claim to not know any of Egeria's secrets, as well as do nothing following your inquiries.
So you've been watching me all this time, have you? I didn't think you were that type.
You...
Oh, the opera's about to start. Toodles! What I can tell you is that I'm an astrologist, and that this prophecy concerns the fate of Fontaine, even that of all Tevat. Ascertaining this is akin to reading the fortune of the whole world. I'm afraid that this is not something that just anyone can do. If I could do it, you would no longer call me an astrologist, but a visionary.
A visionary? Sounds really powerful and all, but does such a person really exist?
Of course. The old hag could do it, and I'd bet there are others amongst those Hexenzirkel colleagues of hers who could do something similar.
Normally, people will only reveal the truth when standing trial. Perhaps we must have the Hydro Archon experience just such a scenario.
You might even pick up some fancy oratory tricks to impress your boss with in the future.
I see. And what does my boss say?
He is glad that you consider him your boss. Do go on.
But I do have one more question for you, monsieur. If we were to create a trap now, how would you design it?
I would like for it to be effective, but bring no harm to the prey. A more gentle trap would be ideal, but we shall require much more courage than any hunter to judge a god, a being whose seat is an exalted throne.
Oh, so that's what's going on. Sounds very interesting.
Consider me a passerby, just accepting a commission from my friend's disciple on a whim. Yes, what has been prophesied will be fulfilled. You may view such things as the history of the future, just as prophecies are usually only the future as seen from the perspectives of the gods. Could things be happening in hidden corners where the god's gaze does not fall? Ultimately, fate shall serve as your only guide, no matter what will happen in Tevat's future. All you need to do is to play your part.
Share my burden. That's impossible. It was fated right from the start that this would be my duty alone. A witness. Yes, I've heard that you came to Tevat from beyond the stars, yes. In other words, you never belonged here. And if Tevat is, in its entirety, a show on a stage, then you're just a spectator, aren't you?
Now, without further ado, we may proceed to the trial of our god.
Mark my words. This shall be one of the most exhilarating and brilliant shows ever to grace the stage of Fontaine. The trial of the Hydro Archon, Focalor, will now begin!
Woohoo!
Oh, now we're making history.
My thanks, Farina. Without your help, we could never have pulled off such an extraordinary performance.
You're welcome. Only the most outstanding champion duelist in all of Fontaine would accept a duel with an Archon without flinching.
Thank you.
I would like to charge you as a fraud, who's never been the Archon in the first place.
I plead not guilty. How can I be guilty? And if I was not the Archon, then how did I manage to live for over 500 years?
A curse? I once thought it possible that the aura of an Archon might naturally resemble a type of curse. But in light of this claim, perhaps what I sensed was not your divinity, but a curse after all.
Everyone knows that the main difference between a human and a god is the possession of authority. Gods can do what humans cannot. That's why they're worshipped as god.
Miss Farina, would you dare to touch some of the seawater?
I'm fine! Look at me, everyone! My hand is still here! I haven't been dissolved!
She was experiencing the adverse effects of exposure to primordial seawater. The extent to which she was affected is the same as other humans when exposed to primordial seawater of a similar concentration.
Please, everyone, anyone, just listen to me! I swear, I really am your Archon!
According to the judgment of the Oratrice Mécanique d'Analyse Cardinale, Farina is... The exact wording of the verdict is thus: the Hydro Archon, guilty to be punished via the death sentence. Indeed, not only is Farina's sentence overly excessive, the very point of our trial today was also to prove that Farina has never been the Hydro Archon in the first place. But now, the Oratrice seems to have deliberately invoked the title of the Hydro Archon. What does this mean? I believe I have now made sense of the Hydro Archon's crime. It has to do with Fontaine's lost history.
We know from the case of the serial disappearances of young women that Fontainians can be dissolved in primordial seawater. And this might be the reason that Fontainians can dissolve. It's not as simple as falling into the sea. When Navia fell into the sea, her consciousness was subjected to judgment. The stone slates show the people gathered around the Hydro Archon in the sea. Could that be alluding to the same thing? Perhaps what is about to take place has all happened before. The true sin of the Hydro Archon that Neuvillette mentioned, and the original sin cast down on the people of Fontaine by Celestia, as recorded on the stone slates. The prophecy from the stone slates found its way into society, but not many people believed it at first. The fortress of Meropide was nearly flooded with primordial seawater, which we know can cause Fontainians to dissolve. It seems increasingly likely that the prophecy may come true. If we hadn't dealt with it in time, things could have gone very badly.
In the Fontaine of old, the previous Hydro Archon sensed the yearning of her Oceanid familiars for life on land. The Oceanids were enamored with the beauty and romanticism of human beings, and wishing to have those experiences for themselves, expressed to the Hydro Archon their desire to become of a similar kind. However, even though water as an element is intricately linked with the power of life, the Hydro Archon, as one of the seven, did not possess the authority to create a new form of human life. Not one to give in, she eventually found a way to create permanent humanoid bodies for her familiars by appropriating the power of this planet's primordial sea. She poured primordial seawater into the Oceanid's blood vessels, creating humanoid mimics in the process. But if Fontainians were to ever come into direct contact with water from the primordial sea, the power within their bodies would escape these artificial restraints and return to the sea. As a result, their forms would collapse, and they would be reverted to their original forms as Oceanids. Of course, the Hydro Archon never received permission from the heavenly principles to create a new human race, and thus, the Hydro Archon and all of her creations came to shoulder the original sin of appropriating the power of the primordial sea. That is the true history of how the people of Fontaine first came into being.
Wait, but if that's the truth, we can't let the Hydro Archon be sentenced to death. After all, her only sin was creating us.
A key point of the visual on the third slate is how all the individuals depicted in the water are humans rather than Oceanids. They have not been dissolved, which implies that the water depicted in this slate is not water from the primordial sea. The nation of Fontaine is the nation of Hydro, as well as the nation of trials and justice. Instead of being the literal element, the water in the scene symbolizes judgment and justice. Therefore, the meaning of the third slate is that the people of Fontaine shall try the Hydro Archon at the court of justice.
If that's the case, does that mean the scene in the fourth slate will also be fulfilled soon?
This eruption was just a small warning of the things to come. We must find the root cause of the disaster. It has been greedily consuming the energy from the planet's primordial sea, using it to grow. That is the main cause for the rising sea levels. Therefore, when it left the primordial sea, it decided to make its next stop a packed opera house full of food. Food in the form of Fontanians.
What's happening with the oratories?
I believe it is preparing to carry out the death sentence.
No, I still need answers!
You are not Farina. Who are you?
The sweet sound of bewilderment. Marvelous. A sure sign that my attempt to deceive everyone was a resounding success. But to answer your question, I am Focalor. You know, the god. Oh, that wasn't my goal, of course. Goodness, no. But I had to fool everyone else too, if I was to stand any chance of deceiving the heavenly principles. One was not amused. In fact, one was positively bemused when that problem was thrust upon me by my dearest predecessor. That's the former Hydro Archon Egeria, for the uninitiated. I spent a terribly long time mulling it over, alone on the ocean floor. And I was almost growing barnacles by the time I finally realized there was only one possible solution to this confounding conundrum. I had to outwit the heavenly principles, allow the prophecy to be fulfilled, ostensibly at least, while saving everyone at the same time. I'm a genius, I know. I can only assume that's why Egeria chose me as her successor. Although, looking back now, it was hardly the inheritance one dreams of. Between the task of saving the nation, the quotidian duties of the Hydro Archon, and not to mention the original sin of creating a new race of humans, I dare say she left me quite a colossal mess to clean up. But one can only play the hand one is dealt. I did not choose this, any more than I chose to be one of her Oceanid familiars. After becoming a god, I separated my divinity from my body and spirit, leaving behind only a self that was as naive and bewildered as my past self on her first day as a human being. The me you see before you now is that divinity, and the human counterpart I left behind, I named Farina. Anyway, so then I cursed her. In order that the prophecy might appear fulfilled, I invited Farina to be an actress, to play the part of the Hydro Archon in the prophecy. Under the curse I placed on her, so long as I, Focalor's divinity, continued to exist, she could not die. But nor was she free to live her life in the pursuit of happiness.
But Farina is only human, isn't she? Even though she has had a long life, her mind is no stronger than that of any other ordinary human being.
It's been 500 years, and all along, she's been playing her part in the most unimaginably long, unbearably lonely, and agonizingly painful opera of all time. Farina. Farina.
Wait a moment. You're mirror me? How can this be?
Mirror you, huh? You know what? That's not bad. Let's go with that.
What's going on? I can't seem to remember anything clearly. The only thing I know for sure is this prophecy. Will it really come to pass?
Listen well. Fontaine has just lost its Hydro Archon. I need you to play a role, that of the new Archon. You must begin a never-ending masquerade, You must never let anyone suspect your identity. If you can keep it up, then I shall have my way of defying this prophecy. But should your identity be revealed, then all hope will be lost.
My lady?
What is it, good citizen?
Oh, are you crying?
Oh, really now? I didn't even notice. This must be the overflow of hydro from my person. Well, can't quite help being the god whose dominion is the waters, can I?
No wonder. No wonder. A manifestation of your power, then. Oh, Archon, I am honored to have witnessed it. Honored indeed.
So interminable. So lonely. Just how much longer? Hundreds of years must have passed by now. Perhaps the show must go on for hundreds more. Have I reached my limit? No. Perhaps I reached it long ago. Today I didn't even notice my own tears. I want to tell someone, anyone, about this. But would that not destroy all I've done so far? All I can do is keep heart. I must maintain this act. It is the only way to save Fontaine. Please, mirror me. You have to succeed. A witness. Yes, I've heard that you came to Tevat from beyond the stars, yes. In other words, you never belonged here. And if Tevat is, in its entirety, a show on a stage, then you're just a spectator, aren't you? If that's the case... She's right. I could confide in her, couldn't I? But if things don't play out as expected, the people of Fontaine will be the ones to pay the price. No, Farina, you shouldn't be selfish. Farina, you've worked so hard for so long. Surely it would be okay to put yourself first for once. Just this once. No, I have nothing to say. I am Farina, the Archon of Fontaine. Everything will surely get better. All you need to do, dear spectator, is to witness my performance until the curtains fall.
Fine.
So even Farina doesn't know the truth? You've never once let her in on the full plan?
Yes, it had to be done. To deceive the heavenly principles, you must first deceive yourself. She did very well. If she had let her resolve falter even once in these 5 centuries, Fontaine would have been doomed to the most tragic fate. And then I became one with the oratories, taking Fontaine's gnosis with me. Yes, it would seem so, wouldn't it? In truth, it is no enactor of justice. It is, in fact, a device created to kill the god of justice. Oh,
you have it. And to be more precise, not only will the Oratrice take down the god of justice, it will also take down the divine throne upon which she has been placed. This power, accrued over 5 centuries, could have sustained Fontainians for millennia, had it only been used for that purpose. Almost all of it has now been stored within the Oratrice. But only power of this magnitude could hope to destroy the Hydro Archon's divine throne, shaking the rules established by Celestia, and breaking through the institution that is the Seven.
The destruction of that divine throne. If I do not misunderstand your intent, you must be...
In other words, this was all done to return the authority of the Hydro Archon to the Hydro Dragon of this planet. The authority of the ancient dragons shall soon be yours once more, O Hydro Dragon Sovereign. And this is the face you make. Hydro Dragon, don't cry. Iudex Nervilette, the highest judge in our land. When you regain your full power as an elemental sovereign, what verdict shall you pass upon us?
In the beginning, I was uninterested in human existence. But these 5 centuries of living alongside them have gradually brought about mutual understanding between us. And I have even attempted to feel as they feel. You are a devious one, Focalors. People of Fontaine, your sins are forgiven.
His name is Sertologi. Huh. So Master is insufficiently famous. How should I describe him then? Have you heard of the name The Foul? Still nothing? Well, how about the Visionary? Vetterfulnir then? Or Gold Rhine-daughter? But I suppose you understand now, yes? My master is likely a similar sort to Rhine-daughter. They are both pursuing some form of perfection. The prophecy that you've been fretting over should now be in full swing.
All hands, initiate emergency rescue!
Look! The water's receding! We didn't dissolve. The prophecy was wrong! The prophecy was wrong!
Are you alright? You already know my answer, I'm afraid. Best you interview our head nurse instead. Or perhaps you'd like to take another photo of this couple of researchers?
Did you really have to use the word couple?
After Lady Farina left, Father and Monsieur Nervilette opened negotiations, during which he gave Fontaine's gnosis to her as a diplomatic gift.
Fontainians were incomplete humans born of Egeria's use of the power of the primordial sea, with constitutions similar to that of mimics. But so long as those primordial energies remain within them, I could use the ancient dragon's authority to grant them true blood, after the fashion in which life was first brought into being on this planet. In other words, when I gave my verdict, Fontanians became true humans, and thus would naturally no longer be dissolved by water from the primordial sea. I have investigated his case along many avenues, and I have learned that he once fell into an unknown chasm when he was young. There, by chance, he awakened the all-devouring narwhal. Whether it was due to that liability by association, or Focalors deliberately using him to buy time for us on the assumption that he would be able to hold the creature off, I cannot say. Ah, Lady Furina. The people are only aware that her death sentence has not been carried out. She abdicated the post of Hydro Archon and left affairs related to that title to me, before leaving the Opera House. I related Focalors' words to her faithfully and completely. After hearing them, she seemed neither saddened nor comforted. She simply said that she was tired and needed to rest. As I am now, I have full command over New Musia. As far as I'm aware, Natlan can be said to be a nation of dragons. Natlan is also the nation of war. War ravages those lands like an undying flame. The harbinger known as the Captain has thrown his hat into the endless ring of war.
You should have the remains of the third descender on your person, yes? According to your parlance, I believe it may be called a gnosis.
This third descender you refer to, who are they? And when did they die?
Master never mentioned them to me. If you're interested, though, I could ask him. I'll be sure to pass the answer on to you next time. I have a disciple of my own, don't I? He can be the messenger then?
That means that the Gnosis, which are exceedingly element-compatible and can even enhance elemental abilities, do indeed come from the third descender. I wonder, does your body also possess similar properties?
Like being able to use elemental powers without a vision! That does sort of count as special compatibility, right?